Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome into the Blue Lady. This is a spot where I do my best to try and answer all the questions that you sent to me. Thank you so much. I have pages of questions. So what I've tried to do is collate them into groups, some questions that were about me, some questions about camping, and a section on really challenging, hard to answer questions. And at the end, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the adventure I have coming up because it's a fairly substantial expedition for me, and so I'm pretty excited about it. So I think what we'll do is I'll start with the first one. One of the questions that comes up is, where do you live? Are you a Canadian? And have you always lived? Another one was, have you always lived in Canada? That's come up, and I'm very happy to say yes, I am a Canadian, and I live on the west coast of Canada, the Pacific Ocean side. And I live on an island which is, well over 450 kilometers long. And I have lived most of my life on some place on Vancouver Island. The next questions are about people who have asked me about my family and about whether my family are concerned about me going solo camping. Bob and I met about 25 years ago, and at that time we each had 2 grown children. Since then, over the last 25 years, those 4 children and their spouses have produced 10 grandchildren, and we now have 3 great-grandchildren. So, do they worry about me when I go solo camping? I don't really think so. I've talked to my kids about it a lot, and they know that I've been going camping all my life. And I'm pretty clear about that I'm willing to take the risks that I do, and I'm very, very careful about what risks I choose to take. So I'm not doing super high risk activities, and they know that I have lots of safety gear. So no, I don't think that they do worry about me. The next question is, what was your career? Well, for a very big part of my life, I was a public health nurse. In fact, I spent all of my nursing years but one in the community. It was a job I really loved. I had the opportunity to do lots of health education, to visit people in their homes, see new moms and their babies, support them through difficult times in their lives if I could. I was able to be in schools teaching health education and facilitating parent groups. It was a job that had so much variety and a lot of autonomy, and I really, really enjoyed it. So the next question has come up so many times, is why doesn't Bob come with me? I should have him here to answer that, shouldn't I? He just doesn't like tent camping. And in fact, he's not a real camper. But he has very much enjoyed going in the van over the last 9 years that we've had the Blue Lady. But his interests are a little different than mine. And as we age, we have less energy. And so he's putting the majority of his energy into his interests. And the big one for him is martial arts. He's very engaged and committed to that. So that's why he doesn't come. Do I have a fitness routine or a nutrition plan? No, I don't. I am not a gym person at all. I find doing weights incredibly boring. And so I just keep active by doing lots of gardening, and if I've got an opportunity to climb around on the floor, I do. I try to be up and down and on my feet for most of the day doing something. I walk every day. So if I do have anything that's a routine, I think I can say that 95% of the time I'm out walking every day for probably a minimum of 45 minutes. And in the winter, I actually walk more than in the summer, because in the summer I'm out in the yard and gardening and going camping and doing all kinds of other activities. But in the winter, when it's called dull and dreary, I actually walk pretty much an hour every day or longer. And usually once a week I go with some other people, a walking group, and walk a couple of hours. I think, I have been blessed with some good genetics. I had a grandmother who lived to 103, and she was very much able to get about until she was 100. I don't think I'll be that lucky. But she lived on her own till she was 96, and she gardened and she walked every day. She was a wonderful role model. She was also a great role model for nutrition, and as well as having a career in health education. I learned a lot about nutrition, and I just really like to eat well. I learned to eat lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and I do enjoy carbohydrates, and I do enjoy sweets, sugary things, and I absolutely adore ice cream. But I just I don't limit myself to anything in my diet, but I try to just eat the things that I know that aren't in my best interests occasionally. So, but if the ice cream was in the house, I'd be the first one in there. So we just buy ice cream sparingly. What kind of exercises or rebalancing centering exercises do I do? I did do many years of yoga, and I did learn a lot about breath and relaxation breathing. And I commonly just have integrated, I commonly utilize the skills that I learned through yoga for when I'm walking, for when I'm anxious, before going to, if I can't sleep. Doesn't always work, but anyway, I do do some, controlled breathing, and I did a lot of meditation with the yoga, and yeah, I do that, but I don't engage in a daily routine. I use it when I feel I need it. The next question, I'm going through this fairly quickly because there's a lot, and I don't think you want to listen to this for an hour. So I'm just going to be as brief as I can, which is most unlike me at times. So how did you get into YouTube? Well, that's a really good question. It was COVID. I was bored, and I hate being bored, and I was stuck in a lot of the time, like, half the world. So I discovered that people on YouTube were going camping and having adventures. And I was, all I'd used YouTube for was on how to fix a faucet or how to, paint a door. So I was very, very happy to see all of these wonderful people, and many of them are Canadians, out doing the most fabulous things. And I discovered that there weren't, though, that many women doing it. The one woman that I found who is much younger than me, but who actually was doing things I like to do, was Brooke Whipple at Girl in the Woods. And she was building cabins, and she was building shelters, and she was doing solo camping, and I don't know what she wasn't doing. She's just one of those incredibly energetic and very capable women. And so I was quite enthralled with watching her. And I thought, I could probably do some solo camping because I'd always wanted to. But because we'd had I'd gone camping with girlfriends in the past, and but I'd never gone by myself, and I didn't have any more women in my age group that I knew that would even consider going camping. So I got into YouTube by watching Brooke, and she was just such a great example to me, and of a woman who could do it if you set your mind to it. She was very inspiring. And so I looked for women my age on YouTube, and there wasn't any. At least I never found them. Not doing the things that I want to do. So I know I was complaining to Bob about it, and he said, well, you're an old woman and you go camping. Why don't you make a channel? And I thought, well, I don't know how. But that's the kind of thing that spurs me on, is when I don't know how to do something and I think, I wonder if I could. And so I started just going on YouTube to find out how to make a YouTube channel. And that's really how it started. And it kind of grew. And I never in my wildest dreams would I have ever thought I would have this many subscribers. In fact, I was just begging my family to watch so that there could be some subscribers. But anyway, it's come a long way. And I'm not looking to have a full-time job. But this has definitely turned into a part-time job. And it's a job that I love. So it's a perfect combination. Doing something I love, exploring using new technology, which I am just, so slow at, and just having a lot of fun. So I'm quite happy to carry on doing this for a little while yet. People have asked to get camera gear, and basically I have an action camera. I have an iPhone, and now I have a drone, which, is in the very infantile stages of being part of my repertoire. So that's basically how I learned. I learned on YouTube, and I did it because I was bored. And there you go. So these are questions about camping. When did you start camping? I started camping probably when I was about 8 years old. But I don't remember exactly where we went. But I do know that we had a blue and yellow canvas tent, one of those umbrella tents, and it had two ends, not just the square or one end. It had two ends because there was 4 kids. And that's my first real memory. And certainly I was the oldest, and I learned how to help set up the tent, and I enjoyed it. I just kind of took to it right away. I always loved being out in the outdoors. I had a girlfriend who has a dairy farm. I was all about, climbing over hay bales and, playing with the calves and digging out in the dirt. So being outdoors was something that I was just attracted to right since I was young, I think. So it evolved into camping, and I just learned my skills of camping, such as they are, by years of doing it and exploring different types of camping and with different people. So I learned quite a lot from people I camp with. My first real adult friend who I camped with is a lady by the name of Sylvia, and her dad was a real outdoorsman. And what I learned most of all from Sylvia was not how to light a fire. I learned that from my mom. She was a great fire maker. But I learned how to stay calm in adversity when we were out. And that you didn't need to get all in a bit of rattle about things. So, and I think Sylvia must have, well, that was her personality, but she probably learned that from her dad too. So, yeah, learned from other people. And do you remember your first hike? Yes. My very first backpacking trip was when I was about 33 or so, and the West Coast Trail was open. And boy, did I want to go there. I loved the West Coast, and I thought this would be just right what I want to do. And I never backpacked in my life. I had to find somebody to go with. My brother consented to go with me. He's about 6 years younger than me. So he had on a pair of running shoes and some kind of a pack. And I had a pack that didn't fit me and a pair of new boots. As as my brother skipped along, I don't know if he'd like to be thought of as skipping along, but it appeared to me he was skipping along in his old running shoes, and I was plodding along in my new leather boots, getting blisters that went completely around my feet by the time I got home. That was my first hike. But I want to tell you, I didn't do the whole West Coast Trail because there wasn't transportation. We did half and went in half, came out half, but there wasn't transportation like there is now with buses to be picked up and dropped off. And it was a long way for people to come and get us. So we did the Susiat. We did the north end of the West Coast Trail. And I had a lot of tears when my feet were hurting on the way out. And but just sucking it up and telling my brother to keep walking ahead of me because I didn't want him to see I was crying. But when I got home, I was so elated. I can't tell you how, as much pain as I was in, and I could not walk properly for several days after, I was on cloud nine because I'd done it. And I was hooked. I just had to sort out the foot business. It was an experience that was life-changing. So thanks to my brother and thanks to the beauty of the West Coast. So that was my first hike. And the next question sort of follows on that. When did you start your first solo camping? And that was actually after watching Brooke. So somewhere around the COVID time. And I started out by going camping by myself in the van and then spending time by myself up at the cabin. And it just kind of grew. And I loved tent camping. And I was very happy to get back to doing tent camping. And it just evolved. But I didn't really have a need to go alone when I was younger. And but then as I couldn't find people to go with, well, that was an alternative to go solo camping. So yeah, that's why I started solo camping. Would you camp this much if you weren't doing YouTube? Probably not. But I must tell you, the more I do it, the more I keep wanting to do it. It's very motivating doing YouTube for a number of reasons. The first reason is because of you, all of you subscribers who are so positive and so supportive. How could I not be motivated to keep doing this? And I get such a kick out of doing it. I'm happy. Being outdoors is my happy place. I've said that before. And I love creating. I like to be busy. I like to be challenged. Not too hard, but, I like a little bit of a challenge. And I get all of those. My needs get met by going camping and doing YouTube and taking you along with me. I never feel alone. I've got quite dependent on your company. And I have a purpose the whole time I'm out, is in filming and thinking about how I'm going to do things and get shots. And so, it is a part-time job for sure now, but it's the most enjoyable thing. So, it's a very, very fun. So, I thank you for motivating me to go more often. And it's a very healthy thing for me to do, especially in those off months. I'm doing that winter camping I'd never done before. And I saw these people in Ontario winter camping on YouTube. And I thought, I got to have one of those tents with a stove in it. Now I do. So, and I really like it. So thank you. All right, what's next? And then there was sort of an adjoining question there about how do you pick your trips? Well, my trips for YouTube, I pick them so that I do a variety of things. and having to find places that aren't huge drives away. Doing YouTube is a consideration, and so that I'm sharing different things with all of you. It's not the same. It's not the same all the time. Longer trips are different. Those have been our holidays, and I'll tell you about that coming up. All right, there's lots and lots of questions about bears and cougars and fear of humans and managing fear. And for those of you who are new to the channel, if you go to my homepage and you go under playlists and you look up under solo camping, you'll find a number of videos I've done really addressing those things. So I don't want to go into that a lot here. And what I thought I would do is I'll go back over those videos in the next, while, over the fall, and I might collate them and maybe make a new one just to sum things up. So, I learn as I go doing all of this, and I think maybe I could do a better video if I made one which included a lot of that material together. So it was about like, how do you start? And I did a video about getting started with solo camping. So just please have a look at that. There was, questions about encounters with wildlife. And yes, I have had some encounters, and I'll just maybe share one of my favorite one. That would be good. My daughter was with me and my friend Sylvia, and we were at Cape Scott, which is at the very north end of Vancouver Island. Absolutely gorgeous, but muddy. And we were out at a beach called Nissan Bight. Some of you from this area will know that beach. It's a good hike in. And we were camped, and it was still a bit light. It was dusk, and we were 3 of us in the tent, head to toe. We were like sardines in a tin, in a 2-man tent, 3 of us. Shannon, my daughter, was probably about 14, give or take. Anyway, we were all lying down, and then Shannon says, "Mom, there's a wolf looking in our tent." Sylvia and I sat up so fast, and there was the wolf. It was right at the mesh in a little 2-man tent, right? Looking at us. And as soon as we sat up, of course, the wolf fled. There was quite a discussion about who was going to get out to see what had happened to the wolf, or were we surrounded by wolves? But we were, in Sylvia's manner of being calm under duress, and we were all calm, Shannon and me, and we were having a discussion about the pros and cons of who should we believe when they talk about wolves. Anyway, Sylvia very generously offered to get out and look, because she said that she didn't have any children, and I did. As if, the tent was going to be, if somebody wanted to attack us. We were in a nylon tent. Anyway, of course there was no wolf. And it turned out that the parks man knew about this wolf. He was a lone wolf, very old. And the next winter, he died. But he was just curious to see who was on his beach, I think. And he didn't mean any harm. It was just wanted to look in. So that was probably one of my favorite wildlife stories, and it had a very happy ending. I've never had a really negative problem with wildlife, and I really haven't ever had a really negative encounter with people. So anyway, I know that people have different ideas about all of that, but I have not had a problem. So my scariest experience camping, well, that happened when I was camping in Africa. And another question was, have I ever camped overseas? And yes, I have. I went to Nepal and I went to Southern Africa. I was a volunteer in Swaziland for a number of months. And before I came home, I did 4 weeks traveling around with my backpack and my tent in Zimbabwe. And I was in Hwangi Park, and what was so scary to me was I was camped in a field. That's where we were to put our tents, and a thunderstorm came over. So I dove into my tent because it was raining, and it's the middle of the day, and the lightning started. There was the biggest thunderclap, the biggest fork of lightning that lit the sky, and it hit the ground somewhere not that far from me, because I was lying flat on the ground and the ground moved. It vibrated. And I was quite convinced that I was going to die. And it was interesting in retrospect. I hadn't thought about it for ages till this question came up. And I was really, really scared. And then I just thought, well, I've come halfway around the world. I'm as far away from home as I almost could possibly be. And I'm going to die. And I just put my head down and pulled my sleeping bag over my head and relaxed. And then the thunderstorm left, and I was still alive. But I thought that and actually lightning is a very high killer in Zimbabwe. So it wasn't unfounded. I'd seen dealings with hippos. I'd had lions huffing in the bush not far from my tent. And I had a whole a pack of wild boars come, whipping through the campsite with their tusks out. and what scared me the most was lightning. And the only thing that ever hurt me was a caterpillar, and I got an infection, and that was in Africa too. But I got antibiotics, and I was fine. So, it wasn't the people, and it wasn't the lions, the tigers, and the bears. It was lightning and the caterpillar. So, I don't know what that says, but it's interesting. My most memorable trip, certainly the overseas ones. So when I went to Nepal, I was with some girlfriends, and we had an amazing time with the guides, and it was something else. And of course in Africa, seeing all the animals, it was fabulous. I think one of the most unusual things that I've done here is there was a video I did called Smoked In, and it's when Bob and I flew into Turner Lake in Tweedsmuir Provincial Park in the Chilcotin area a few years ago, and we were dropped off by a float plane in the middle of nowhere, and then the plane left. Which, of course, we knew. We'd paid for them to do that, to leave us there, and we were going to stay in this little cabin, and it was crooked, and it didn't have even a door latch, and we were in bear country. But the only animal we were bothered by at all was one mouse. So again, you think. But that was a really, really special trip. So that was probably a really memorable one. And my first hike with my brother, that was totally memorable. Do I have a favorite tool or piece of gear? Well, I did have one until not terribly long ago. I had a wonderful Swiss Army knife that I bought back when I was, early backpacking. I had that knife for 40 years approximately, and it burned in a fire. And I have a really nice knife now, and it's great. And but there was something that was my go-to. That was my favorite piece of gear. And I say I don't have it anymore, but it served me well. What do I think are the my most important camping essentials? Without a doubt, I put a good sleep system at the top. And I guess we could do a video on that, but there's some very good ones out there on the internet now. And but I've spent money on and spend time researching and trying out sleeping mats. If you are new to camping, you got to find something that's comfortable to sleep on. And if you're going to spend money, get something that's going to keep you warm. So insulated sleeping mat that's going to fit your body for if you sleep on your side or your back or your stomach. You've got to try it out. You've got to go to a store where they put the gear on the floor for you and you can lie on it. And then you can climb in the sleeping bags. You know, it's make sure you get something that fits your body and your way of being. So, and your environment is essential. So the next would be having a decent shelter, and then really the other stuff is things like cookware and stoves. And but I think one that the most important to me is a good sleep system. That's my opinion. So next and last here are the hard to answer, challenging questions that don't have a straightforward answer. What do you think about when you're alone? What kind of music do you like to listen to? I like all kinds of music. It depends on my mood. But certainly if I'm out camping and I do decide that I want to listen to some music, I usually pick something really calming. I don't do any. And if I watch a movie, I always pick something sort of like Hallmark. I don't have Hallmark, but you know, it's got to have a happy ending. I don't ever watch anything scary. So I create an environment that I can just curl up and go to sleep after and not think about. I can get caught up in scary movies and bloody things, and I just not doing that. And what do I think about? Well, a lot of the time I'm thinking about how I'm going to make the next, how I'm going to stage the next video, where I'm going to put my camera and how many camera angles I need to get. But when I'm not doing that or cooking something, I like to just sit there. And sometimes I don't think. You know, I think I said in that last video I did about, the backcountry one, that, I can sit there and just watch the water and listen to the trees in the wind, and I don't think I have many thoughts. And the most astonishing one is that I'm actually a part of this beautiful nature, and it just makes me happy. So I think my mind can wander and come up with all kinds of stuff, but a lot of the time I don't think I think purposefully about too much. So, and that's a good break, you know. It's pretty cool. Have you ever had an experience with any phenomena you can't explain? No. So I can answer that one simply. No, I have not. And how has my relationship with nature evolved over my life? Deep. Like, I don't know how to answer that. I remember as a little girl, like I said, I liked to go to the farm. I wanted to be out. But also when I was upset or sad, there was a little grove of trees we, as kids, called the cherry forest. They were all a bunch of sapling cherry trees on a vacant lot. And when I was upset, I would go and sit in the forest, the cherry forest. I always found it to be a refuge, a place of, I think, welcoming and quiet and peace. And I could then spend time mulling about how angry I was at my parents over something. And then pack up my stuff and go home when I got it out of my system. So I don't think I was ever there for more than 20 minutes, but in one of my moods as a little kid, but that's where I used to go. I used to go to the woods. And, I'm still going to the woods and I'm still enjoying it and it's still therapeutic. And now I don't wait till I'm in a bad mood. I just like to go. So it's a good question. What would you say to your younger self? I mean, that's meant as, advice. And what would I change in my life? I thought of some things that I might be able to say to my younger self, but then I thought, would I have listened? Maybe. Maybe not. I think we learn things as we're willing to learn them. And sometimes people just telling you, I would have encouraged myself to believe in myself more, to follow my intuition, to follow the little voice and not worry about conforming to the expectations of, my society so much. I had some ideas that weren't that popular, I suppose, with my family. But, it was never a confrontation or anything. I just sometimes I think maybe took the easier route. It's not an unusual thing. I would have perhaps wished I could have believed in myself a little bit more. But, that takes time. And that's what life's about, is learning. It's a lifelong journey of learning. And you say, I don't know that I'd change anything in my life too much, except sometimes I made decisions that maybe weren't the best decisions, but we make decisions and we learn. So I don't know. I have a lot of trouble thinking. I thought it would be easier, but when I really thought about it, I thought, that I'm not really sure about. But you're making me think. I did a lot of thinking. And it's a good thing to do. How do you deal with getting older? Well, there's not much we can do about it. And I just keep trying to do the best I can with what I've got. And yes, my body's diminishing, my strength's diminishing, my balance is diminishing, probably my mind is diminishing. I sure as heck have to watch videos on how to use camera equipment or something new or edit over and over again. I don't learn it all, and if I don't do it for a week, I have to go back and look how to do it. That's just a fact. And then as far as, how do I, one question was about, our appearance as we age, that we change. And I thought, well, maybe doing YouTube has helped because, oh my gosh, sometimes I can't believe how bad I look on these videos. I think I'm so disheveled and, well, you watch them, right? I got my hair combed, I'm dirty and I'm crawling around but I'm having a good time most of the time. But it's certainly not it's not, it does throw all those wrinkles right in your face. All the wrinkles on your face are thrown right in your face. You go, oh my gosh, who's that old lady? So I've kind of got used to that. Maybe that's helped. And I don't think about it that much, getting older. But then I get really worried or upset when I can't do things that as easily, or I can't do them at all. I do have some shoulder things happening, and I keep thinking, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to keep paddling my canoe. But, I don't know. I guess we just have to keep adapting and doing other things. It's a hard one. Everybody's so different too, right? And how do you keep a positive attitude? I do think I generally have a positive attitude. I mean, I get cranky and miserable and frustrated and negative and all of the things that most of us do. But I do try to see my way through to find the positive. It's as a conscious effort, but it's also probably a habit. I just feel happier if I'm dwelling on more positive outcomes. And I think having a sense of humor. I do have a sense of humor. It's a bit weird. And some people don't understand my sense of humor. And sometimes I laugh at things that nobody else thinks is funny. But I think I see the ridiculous in a lot of things. And the ridiculous in some of the things that I do. And it makes me laugh. So maybe doing YouTube, I mean, really. I think of some of the things I've done, and I think, why would I ever have done that? And then I can sort of just see the funny side of it. A sense of humor, being able to laugh at yourself, I think is huge. And not take yourself too seriously. And these are hard questions to answer. We could sit for hours around the campfire and we could discuss those things, but they don't have an easy answer. But thank you for sending them. It made me think. Now, we're going on here quite a long time, and I want to wrap this up. I want to tell you a little bit about my upcoming adventure. Every year, Bob and I, since we've had the van, have planned a trip somewhere. And I thought we were going to go to the Yukon this year. And the Yukon is a territory in the north of Canada. And then Bob said he decided he didn't want to go, and he didn't really have any other place he wanted to go. No, he wanted to stay home, and he's committed to doing some things with his martial arts. So I thought, well, I guess I'm going. And yes, it's about a 2,000 kilometer drive north. And I've never, I like road trips. I've never gone on a road trip by myself, anything like that. And I've almost always gone with somebody else. So I'm going to go with Milo. Milo and I are going to go to the Yukon. At least that is our hope. And it's such a big thing to bite off to do that I've decided to say to myself, I'm going to go as far as I feel I can and still have fun. And if I stop having fun and I'm getting anxious, whatever, I'll turn around and come home. So what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to do some videos along the way, and I'm going to do it kind of a bit like a journal. There is some gorgeous scenery. I've been to parts of these areas, and I was actually born in Whitehorse, which is the capital of the Yukon, and I was there 50 years ago, and I was born there, but I only lived there a few weeks, I think. So I'm going to go to some places in the Yukon that I actually haven't seen, but I have driven the roads to get to the Yukon in recent years. So, it's not like I don't know where I'm going. I do. So I'm going off in about 10 days, less than that, and I'm going to start. And even though it's long, I'm going to take my time. I've got 4 to 6 weeks to do this trip. So I'm going to go on this trip, and I'm very excited. I'm definitely a bit nervous about it. And I really want to invite you to come along because you're all so supportive. I know you'll be cheering me on, And yeah, I'll share with you how I'm coping with this, because I'm bound to have some bad days in that, in that distance and those many days away. It's not like a 24 or 48 hour or even a 5-day trip away. This is going to be a bit of a push. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you as I go. So hang in there. I will be back with another video, but it's going to be probably at least a couple of weeks, and I have no idea where I'm going to upload, or anyway, it's all remains to be seen. So thank you so much for all these fabulous questions. I know I didn't answer all of them, but I think I generally answered most of them. All right. So thanks again. Live life fully and enjoy the moment. So till next time, bye-bye.